Welcome back. If it has joined us, watching the news at 10, broadcasting on Channels Television live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Nigerians commemorate June 12, the day in 1993 when the military regime of retired General Ibrahim Babangida annulled the presidential election widely believed to have been won by the late Moshood Abiola. Activists ask President Muhammadu Buhari to implement the manifesto of the late MKO Abiola. Sarah asked the federal government to stand up to powerful oil companies that alleges have continued to abuse human rights of people in the Niger Delta. And the death toll in a shooting at a gay nightclub in Orlando, Florida rises to 50. Remember, all our top stories are on our websites, channelstv.com and on youtube.com/channelsweb. Do visit m.channelstv.com to view us live on a mobile device. You can also download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows phones from their respective stores. We do encourage you to use the Eyewitness feature in the Channels TV app. If you have pictures or videos you'd like to share with us, tap the application on your device. Swipe to reveal the Eyewitness menu and follow the instructions. Let's take a look at some of the pictures that you sent into our Eyewitness portal. We'll begin with this one. It's a video from Ojokoro in Ahmadiyya axis of Abulegba in Lagos, showing a gully which our Eyewitness reporter says he's worried about because it could widen and cause some inconveniences. He wants the government to fix it as soon as possible. We head on to Ojo local government area, still in Lagos. We're seeing this picture of a fallen electricity pole. Our Eyewitness reporter says it has been like this for days. He wants the appropriate government agencies to attend to it as it portends danger for residents. We're in Calabar now at the Calabar-Ikom-Ogoja Expressway, where we see a fallen truck, which according to our Eyewitness reporter is loaded with tubers of yam. He's worried about the impact of this on the fall on food shortage. We're looking at a picture from Opanam in Asaba, the Delta State capital. It's a picture of a flooded road. According to Eyewitness reporter, this is due to bad drainage. We head on to Kaduna-Zaria Highway in Kaduna State, where we see another picture. That's a final one tonight, showing an overloaded car. Our Eyewitness reporter wants men of the Federal Road Safety Corps to check this trend to prevent such things from happening on our roads. Thank you for sending in those pictures. Know that you too can become an Eyewitness reporter, reporting happenings around you for Channels Television. Now, staying with our lead story tonight, which is the 23rd anniversary of the June 12 annulment of the elections. I'm being joined on the news at 10 by the Executive Director at the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, Mr. Clement Wankwo. He joins us from our studios in Abuja. Mr. Wankwo, thank you for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you.
23 years on, is this date, June 12, still relevant in our democracy?
It is very relevant, given what happened in the period, and it wasn't just on June 12. I think the build up to it. What happened on June 12 was that Nigerians came out and voted in protest against the military dictatorship of General Ibrahim Babangida that had played the Nigerians around, kicked Nigerians around. Nigerians decided on June 12 to vote. More as a significant step to vote out that dictatorship. Of course, the dictatorship continued its games and annulled that election. But the will of the Nigerian people prevailed, even if it took quite a while. And I think the lesson from that and the relevance of June 12 is that when a people are determined to end dictatorship, when a people are determined to end arbitrary rule, they will succeed. And we did see, of course, what happened in the elections that took place in Nigeria, even very recently in 2015, when Nigerians significantly voted and removed an incumbent government, which was the first time in Nigeria's history that Nigerians had voted out a ruling party, and the opposition, or the main opposition party, had taken over. So there was lessons learned from June 12. Nigerians are beginning to understand the importance of the vote. We saw that play out in 2015. And looking at what is going on in the country today, looking at the hardship that Nigerians are suffering, looking at the challenges of living in Nigeria, it should provide a reminder to those who are in power today that the continued failure of this government to deliver on expectations could mean that in the next elections they would also be voted out. So I think the will of the Nigerian people prevailing is really very key.
So how significant is it, this anniversary for Nigeria, considering that 23 years on it is still marked only in states in the southwest?
Well, certainly what we saw with June 12, and a lot of us who were part of that history, who remain part of that history, what was quite clear was that it wasn't even the numbers that mattered. It was the fact that there were a determined people from all parts of this country, even if a lot of them were living in the southwest, like we were. A lot of us knew that it wasn't a sectional issue, it wasn't an ethnic issue, it was a national struggle against bad government, it was a national struggle against the dictatorships that were perpetrated by General Ibrahim Babangida and General Sani Abacha. And I think that wherever it is, it might even be that a small group of people will remain resolute at all times to draw attention to the feelings of a government, to the feelings of those who rule. You would never get the majority of people all the time agreeing on bringing an end to a dictatorial form of government because of the challenges that a lot of the majority of people face, the challenges even of survival. And we did see that in the 90s, in the late 90s, in the struggle against dictatorship. I think that it would always be the case that you would need some major significant event that would pull people together to make and bring about change. I think that every Nigerian understood the importance of ending dictatorship. That happened in 1999 when the civilian government was sworn in. Nobody looks back to say, yes, we would have preferred a continuation of the dictatorship of the military. So I think that it might have been protests in the southwest, it might have been protests in the southeast and a few parts of the northern part of the country, but in reality, every Nigerian agreed that civilian democratic rule is the way to go.
Mr. Clement Mankwo, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the News at 10. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project is asking the federal government to stand up to powerful oil companies, which SERAP alleges have continued to abuse human rights of people of the Niger Delta with impunity for decades. A statement issued by SERAP says it is important for President Muhammadu Buhari to implement the ECOWAS court judgments, which ordered the Nigerian government to punish oil companies over oil pollution and devastation in the region. Part of that statement reads, this government should make sure that the activities of oil companies in Nigeria bring development to the people rather than a string of needless human rights tragedies. End of quote. SERAP says that the government of former President Goodluck Jonathan ignored the judgments and showed no political will to hold to account oil companies that have for many years continued to destroy the livelihoods of tens of thousands of people with almost impunity. Another militants group in the Niger Delta has asked the federal government to fulfill its promises made to the displaced people of Bakassi prior to ceding their homeland to Cameroon. The group is known as the Bakassi Strike Force. It's made up of youths from Akwa Ibom and Cross River states. They say the government must honor the agreements reached. They made the appeal in an exclusive interview with our Cross River State correspondents at the Esuk Mba Creek in Akpabuyo local government area.
Over the past decade, the cry of the displaced Bakassi people is that they've been living like refugees in their own country. It appears government and the international community have neglected these people who were forcefully evicted from their ancestral home by Cameroonian gendarmes. Day after day, they watch their children die of disease or hunger. The aged are buried in a strange land when they die. Their women suffer rape and in some cases get infected with the HIV virus with no proper medical attention.
While the governor, Senator Professor Ben Ayade, has asked us to establish the 2 health posts, which we are doing, so that they can at least access basic health care in this facility free of charge, that would not be enough for them. We still insist that the federal government of Nigeria come to their aid.
We have buried about 21 persons in this camp. It all tells about the negligence of the government. And the United Nations has really pushed IDP of Bakassi away from attention.
The sound of their protests gets even louder and perhaps more confrontational with the emergence of these heavily armed militants who claim to have become defenders of the Bakassi people. Fighters of the Bakassi strike force arrive in speedboats at the Esukumba point of no return creek for a rendezvous with our correspondent, brandishing all kinds of sophisticated firearms amid a display of firepower.
What we are seeing here is not even half of my arms. It's not as if I'm sending a threat to the federal government or the state government. But I'm appealing to please give peace a chance in some certain axes. For war will not lead to any good, rather more destruction.
642 foot soldiers from Akwa Ibom and Cross River states are aggrieved over governments surrendering their homeland without consulting them and without a proper compensation and resettlement, irrespective of several petitions they have written over the years.
We invited our Ijaw brothers to come and assist us, resist the Cameroonians' operations. But when the federal amnesty came, they embraced it and abandoned us with our challenges. So there was nothing we could do. We have to come together as a youth, because the only land we had was Bakassi. We cannot run away from it. We mobilized ourselves in total numbers of 642 to fight and resist the operations of the Cameroonian armed forces.
The Cross River State government is also joined in the call for adequate compensation for the Bakassi people.
Injustice to one is injustice to all. The people of Bakassi feel the pain. They're my government. Every day they cry for the same thing. And government thought and think in their wisdom that there was a time they had voted 15 billion. You create a permanent injury and provide a temporary solution. It doesn't work anywhere. I challenge you to seek a permanent redress on this inhumanity.
While the government battles to contain the threat of the Niger Delta Avengers who have been destroying petroleum infrastructure in the oil-rich region, it will do well to heed the cries of the Bakassi people.
When the News at 10 returns, psychiatrists and experts on stress management identify depression, broken relationships and stress as reasons for rising cases of mental illness around the globe. Please join us again.